Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Max Thomas with SIS Software, and we're excited to have you join us today for our Microsoft Dynamics SL 2015, What's New and What's Next. We'll have Mr. Jeff Sewin from Product Marketing telling us all about this in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to just review a little bit about SIS. For those of you that are not familiar with us, we have many of our customers on the line as well. But we're focused on delivering industry software to our customers so they can achieve financial and operational excellence and profitably grow their business. We've been around since 1992. We've got offices spread across the United States, and we're headquartered in Duluth, Georgia, which is Atlanta for those of you that have not been to Duluth. Below you'll see some of the industries that we focus in. The important thing is that we're focused with companies that are contractors and professional services, but we also have a broad level of experience around inventory management, fabrication, and other things that complement these industries. And next slide. So why clients choose SIS is because we're a gold certified partner with Microsoft. We've been serving SL customers for over 20 years, and we actually founded the SL Users Group a little over 16 years ago. We have a dedicated support and customer care team with a dedicated number to log your service calls with, and we have experienced partners as well as consultants and development team. But the most important thing is we understand industry best practices through our experience, and we can help you bridge that gap between business and technology. We also have a broad solution offering centered around SL, AX, CRM, Dynamics 365, and SharePoint, all Microsoft-based products. So please visit our website at any time for more information. This gives just a picture speaks 1,000 words kind of analogy, but if we can help you unify your business productivity and applications on a single platform as much as possible, that's certainly going to save time, cost, and money and help you be more productive as a company. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about SIS, but we're here today to learn more about SL 2015 and what's new and what's next. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeff Sewin.
Max, thank you very much. And thank you, wonderful SIS customers, for taking the time out of your day to learn about Dynamics SL and some of the things that have just been announced, or some of the things I'm just announcing today to you guys first. First of all, kudos to you on choosing SIS, obviously a long-time, high-quality partner, so thank you for choosing them, and thank you to SIS for keeping your wonderful customer base. With that, I'm going to talk about what is Jeff going to discuss today. First, we're going to talk a little bit around lifecycle. Lifecycle is the idea in the Microsoft world is that each product has a 5-year mainstream and extended support, and that's across the board. And we'll talk about what versions of SL are kind of following into these current life cycles and where are we at with them. I've got a bunch of announcements, some things that are just coming out days and weeks ago, and you guys are going to be, I think, one of the first public places I get to announce this, so I'm excited to be able to do that. And then we'll touch on some of the high-level items of 2015. If you haven't upgraded yet, what are those features that are going to make it worthwhile to upgrade to 2015? We'll just touch on a few in those areas that are highlighted. And then we'll talk about web apps, and we continue to build out and add new functionality there, so I'm going to highlight some of the new web apps features that are actually coming out this month. And then we'll talk about the roadmap. What's the next major release? What's going to happen between now and that next major release, and so forth. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So again, the first thing we're going to talk about is lifecycle. Now the first one is around Dynamics SL version 7. Now there might be some of you still out there on version 7. Version 7 came out about 9 years ago, believe it or not. If that kind of puts the things in perspective. About 9 years ago it came out. In fact, we will hit the 10-year mark next year. So next October 10th of 2017, we will be moving Dynamics SL7 off of extended support, which it's on right now, off of extended support. So it'll be leaving the support life cycle. So again, just to take a step back, what does that mean? Well, when SL has been released or when Microsoft released a product, we have 5 years of what we call mainstream support, and I'll talk to you in a second about what that means, and 5 years in extended support. So that basically means that product is going to be able to be called up and you can ask questions about it for roughly 10 years. So again, giving you a lot of security in the fact that you know that the product that you have will be there. So what does that mean for going into extended support? Well, what that means is that if you call up and you have an issue, generally support for SL7 will not be available. I say generally because I don't want to be a curmudgeon and say don't even call, but in general, support is not going to be able to be out there to support SL7 now. And then after 10 years, you probably, if you are still in SL7, have moved probably to SIS. SIS has the built-in support team of SIS that can help you out and can continue. So if you're in SL7 and you're using SIS right now to do all your support, know that that is still going to happen. Nothing's going to change there for you. You're still going to have them. I'm talking more of the high-level generic Microsoft support team is the change that we have here. So again, if you're in SL7 and SIS has continued to provide you the support, you know, that's fine. What would I like? Of course, from a marketing Microsoft side, I would love you to upgrade to the latest version and be able to take advantage of the latest and greatest things. But again, just to let you know that what that means of the standard extended support, what does that mean when it ends? It means that generally you cannot get support when you call or connect with Microsoft. Now, another thing happened here earlier this year, in July of this year, the Dynamics SL 2011 product hit that 5-year mark, so it's been out for just over 5 years now, and it's gone from mainstream to extended support. And you might say, okay, I'll hit the button, sorry. So what does that mean? So what that means is generally, well, as I just said before, Jeff's going to say, and marketing is going to say, upgrade. It's time to upgrade. It's past the 5-year mainstream support. You should be looking at making your plans. If you haven't upgraded to 2015, definitely put that on your list of to-dos. Set aside some funds to make sure that you have some time to bring your SIS team out to assist you, assess your situation, and then start upgrading to 2015. So that's, of course, the main thing. Now, what does that mean as far as support goes? Well, it means that as long as you're on an SL 2011 version that's supported, which is generally these versions, again, they will continue to kind of come off the list, but basically, if you're on the latest versions of SL 2011, you're going to be able to get support. So that means if I have an issue with a batch, with a question on the way things are working, I had something happen and I need someone to help me, assist me. If you do use Microsoft support right now, that will continue to be available for 2011. So you're not losing the ability to contact and ask Microsoft about support for SL 2011. Now, what does change is that there are no longer are we creating hot fixes for SL 2011. Now, after 5 years of lots and thousands of users and so forth, and dozens of customers that are using it, I would say we've probably hit and fixed most of those big rock items that are sitting out there. If you do have an issue that comes up, any hot fixes that would be addressed, if they really needed a hot fix, would most likely be pushed to the SL 2015 version, which is the current version of SL. So that's the big difference. When something goes into extended support, it means there's no longer, we're not going to create hot fixes for you. So that's the big change. Now, generally what it means as well is that when a product goes into extended support, that we do not do year-end updates. Now, year-end updates I'm talking about are the updating text tables that are going to be used for printing out W-2s and other different things like that, and W-4s and all those W-2 things and such. Excuse me there. So all those things we generally stop with a product that's in extended support. And hopefully you knew this, is that we did a one-time special offer that this year we would extend that through the SL 2011 product, just because SL 2011 moved to extended in July. We're not expecting that everybody could move over in that time period, and we wanted to make sure people weren't, rushing. We want them to move on their time, but we don't want them to have to wait forever. So we were able to talk to support and development and extend that 1 year. So I've been saying that for the past year, and very, very excited to let people know we're definitely there for you as a customer. We don't want to abandon you. And then just about a month ago, I got this information that for the first time in as long as I can remember, which has been a long time, we do not have any written updates being created. Now, the reason being is that why? Well, the changes that are being made in the government area are very minimal just because of the change in governments that are happening here. Plus, the reports that got changed did not impact us. So the standard reports that we would give you and we make updates to and make sure they ran and update and all those things, none of them changed this year. So there was a lot of work we did last year, but anything that changed this year, we didn't have to do. So that means there are no year-end updates, which is bizarre to say, but very true. Now, I don't want you to get confused with year-end updates versus payroll updates. There are payroll updates that we made. Generally, those are in close to the right before the last week of the month. That's kind of where we're at right now. It's scheduled for that time frame, so somewhere in the last, right before or right of that last week of the calendar year, we will have the payroll updates available. And those payroll updates will be available for you to upload for the payroll customers that are out there. So I've been telling you year-end updates, and people are going to say, well, what about payroll? And I apologize. That's why I put this little starburst to let you know there are payroll updates. It's just the other updates are not happening. So that is a big announcement. Very different. I'm assuming things will change as we go forward with our changes in government. Now, if you want to learn more about Lifecycle, I kind of give you the high level. I think it's a little more readable and just my personal. But if you'd like to go onto the website, you can go to the website above and get more information. Search for SL, and you'll see exactly the information I had presented in a slightly different way, but the same basic information is there. Now let's go through some other announcements. We do have some releases coming out this month. Now the first one is Dynamics SL 2015 CU2 or Cumulative Update 2. Now that is scheduled for this month, and it will be coming out very shortly here in the next month, the next week or so. So in the next 2 weeks, we will have a release of Dynamics SL 2015 CU2. Now what is this going to have in it? It is going to have any hotfix that has been released since last CU, which was a little over a year ago. So what we've basically done is taken all those hotfixes, put them all together, and that means that now you can deploy them over top of your system and have the latest and greatest things. And the thing that's different here is this CU2 release is only for your rich client. That means that when you had to click on the SL icon and it pulls up and it potentially has you log in and you've got the standard SL looking interface, you're using what we call the rich client interface. And those hotfixes apply to that. Now the nice thing about this as well is these are hotfixes that can be applied over top of your current installation. There's no need to uninstall, reinstall, get rid of the client and reinstall the client, all those things. None of that is required. These are just simply hotfixes that will go on top of your current implementation, take care of any issues that may be out there in your system, update them, update any procedures, update your database, and move forward from there. So that is very soon. And look for that coming out here in the next several weeks before the end of the year. Now, we originally were saying that web apps were also going to be coming out with a CU2 release, but I kind of changed the name, and the reason why I changed it is because I didn't want it to be confusing, because this release of web apps that we're putting out is going to have hot fixes and some new features. And we are really changing the way that we do this, because instead of using CU2, we're just going to basically roll out web apps, because technically this new release of web apps does not need to have CU2 installed. And that's kind of why we changed it, because if I saw SL 2015 Rich Client CU2 and Web App CU2, I'd think, oh, wait a second, I'm not going to touch those until I get my product and update my Rich Client to CU2. And that's not the case at all. So what we're doing is we're going to basically a monthly release cycle for web apps, meaning that every month we're going to be releasing either hotfixes or hotfixes and new feature functionality onto the web apps as we go forward. So basically every month this will be happening. So that is kind of a new cadence that we've had here, that we've been starting here over the last several months. Now as far as what's coming up, what are the recent and upcoming releases? Well, we just had a release of the web apps at the end of November. So that was just hot fixes. And then coming here in a week, I guess that's next week, that week we are scheduled to have another release of SL. It'll have hot fixes, but as we said here, it will also have about 50 enhancements to the web apps. And these are enhancements that are fixing things, long requests by existing customers that said, hey, this is great, but if you could move this or if you could change this, it's going to make my data entry process quicker. So we're listening to those and we're starting to roll those out live here with these new releases. It'll still have hot fixes that we're finding as people find them. Of course, we're addressing them as quickly as we can. And then also there'll be 3 new web apps. So if you don't have web apps right now and you've stayed away from it because, to be honest with you, initially a lot of the stuff was project focused, but now we're starting to add things that go outside of the area. So if you need to access vendors, customers, payroll employees remotely, you will now have that access using these new web apps in this release coming up, again, here probably in the next week or so. So again, we're right on the cusp of a lot of great things releasing. I wanted you to know about them. That's why I just wanted to make these announcements to you quickly. Now, one other question I get a lot as well is, when are you going to be able to add support for things like SQL 2016 and Server 2016? I'll let you know that that is on the docket. As soon as we release our CU2 and we get it out the door and everyone's fit and done with that, we are starting already our testing on these 2 platforms to make sure that SL 2015 is going to be able to run on that. Now, of course, we're initially going to focus on CU2, and based on what we find, we will go back and roll out additional versions based on what we find. Again, obviously, if we don't find anything, then obviously not a big deal. If we find some tweaks that need to be made to the 2015 release, we will release those in a hot fix to make sure that you can run SL on the latest and greatest versions of SQL and of Server. Now, a bonus item that I'm coming out with the SL CU2 release is around Power BI. You may have heard a little bit or not a lot about Power BI, but Power BI is Microsoft's product that they're releasing that allows you to view the information in a graphical way. It's being able to take your data, be able to put graphs, be able to put slicing and dicing of that information. And it's the first time we've had a tool that really comes officially from Microsoft that it's geared towards people. Now, the benefit of Power BI is that you can take Power BI, you can connect it to a Dynamics SL database, you can connect it to an Excel document or a CSV file or anything in between. It's really built to handle all of your visualization and analysis needs with one product, which is really exciting. Now, what we're doing to let you know more about this is when the CU2 release that we talked about that has the rich client releases, there will be a folder in it called Power BI Example, and in it will be a couple items. One, there will be a document that will walk you through, and if you are interested in understanding how do I get this Power BI product, and how do I connect it to SL? Well, we basically give you click-through steps on how do you do that. How do I connect to my SL database? And then we give you some examples. How would you like to write a report? It'll give you some very quick ideas of how to write a report in Power BI. So that's a great starting point. Now, the thing that I'm more excited about is we've also included a dashboard. This initial dashboard that we're creating is focused on the project area. Obviously, it's a focus of us in the solution. But our initial focus is to be able to allow people to view information about their projects. Now, what are those items? So we've got the whole idea here is it's a series of different views of your information, whether it's looking at labor and expenses for a specific project, whether looking at gross margin versus prior gross margin on a project, whether we're looking at the high level of a project that we can drill down and see exactly who's putting their time and expense against a specific project, or even looking at the top items, the top projects. Very exciting. This report will be able to be downloaded. When it opens up, it walks you through, including with some documentation on how do you connect this to your existing. Of course, I would always suggest working with your SIS team because they can help you that as well. And then it also in the upper hand corner gives you places of way to slice and dice the information. I only want to see things for a certain ranking, a certain year, or a certain period. You have that capability right inside this Power BI platform. We have 2 different reports initially. One is a month-to-date view of your project, and one is a inception to date, basically looking from the very time your project started to now, how are we looking? Same bit of information, just 2 different ways to look at it. And lastly, the third one that we have is a view of your top and bottom performers, so top 5 projects and bottom 5 projects, top 5 project managers and bottom 5. And with that information, what we're allowing you to do Again, we can slice it and dice it based on the year and period and so forth. But what you have on the left-hand side is a list of all the different measures that you can use. You can say, I'd like to look at the project-to-date revenue, expenses, labor hours. We can look at actuals versus EAC. All the different things that you would generally look for can be done right on this screen. So I definitely, this is another reason to go to upgrade to CU2, if not even just to get these. Implement them with your SIS partner on your system, understand what it can do, and understand how Power BI might be a solution for you to look into the future. Now, my goal personally, and I can't give you a guarantee, is that we will release multiple ones, some additional dashboards later this year, or I'm sorry, later the upcoming year. And then when we get to our next major release, that will have some more integration with Power BI as well. We really think and have seen some huge investment by Microsoft into Power BI, so we're going to continue to take advantage of it and add more functionality into the SL world. All right, so those are all my announcements. I know that's a lot, but I did want you to know those are very key things to know about, key things that as you plan out the rest of your calendar year and your coming calendar year that you want to think about as you start moving forward. Now, as far as SL 2015, they wanted to talk about some of those key items that are available. Got the big areas that we really focused around are reporting, financials, project, and payroll. I'm sure you've heard that a million times, so I'm just going to talk to you about just some of the features that came out with each of those areas. So in the reporting area, what I kind of did, this is a request that commonly gets asked. Hey, thank you for printing out this Crystal or SSRS report. I need you to run it for a specific field. I need you also to select it for a couple different values. And I also, could you go ahead and run those reports for you? So common request. Now, if you are a longtime SL person, you probably trained yourself after many years to understand what these different lookup fields look like. But one of the things that we added in 2015 that will make your life so much easier is no longer do you have to remember what this field name value is. Now, I'm sure in this very simple report that's just the account table, you can quickly kind of look and go, okay, ACCT is probably account. But wouldn't you like rather to have the ability to view the entire description? So now you can view the entire description of that field instead of having to guess what it is. And also another great feature is this field that I'm about to select to change the way this report works even being displayed on the report? Well, if it's not, probably I'm not going to choose that. So the report field yes and no lets me quickly know whether this field is even being displayed on the report. Same thing when we come to our views. That was a very simple report. Views, not to go too deep or too into that, but basically views are the ability of taking multiple tables and joining them together to make the reports run faster. And so anything that you see VR or view or V in front of it means that the report that's being run is run on a view. Now, VR_016101A probably means nothing to you. So even better, now we do have that full description to tell you exactly what that field is. And for those of you who like to go in and play around or have people on staff that you'd like to ask to change the reports, we also have a field called the source field that says for when someone created that view, that VR01610A, where did they pull the data from? Well, this one pulled it from the account table with the account type field or the account.description field. What's the benefit of this? Well, if you want to make a change to that view, well, you already know it's being pulled in and you can make the adjustments as needed. So add a little added bonus there, I think, to help that process go. So now we've answered that first question. I need to go ahead and pull it for a certain account field or some field. Well, now I can use a description to find that field quicker and know that I feel confident that I am picking the right field to sort my to be able to filter out my report. The next thing, just to kind of build on top of that, is, Jeff, I see that you've gone in here and you've added these fields, but what if I don't like the names that you had? Well, just to kind of give you a bonus on top of that, we've added a whole set of features that will allow you to say, you know what, I don't like the fact that account is called GL chart of account. We just call it the account code. Don't confuse people, make it simple. It's too long, no problem. You can go in here and just change that. And this table also allows me to go in and take fields like more than likely most of us have taken user fields and we've used them for different purposes. We can change that user one field and instead of showing up as user field, it can now show up as the value location. So when I do a lookup and try to find a value, that will show me location instead of the field the value user field. Now, that's great. Now, what would be really great is now that I can easily now find the right field, what about trying to find the right value? I think from that lookup list, I think the values we wanted were, was it 1,000 or was it 1,001, or it was, I can't remember what the format is. It would be really great if when I'm looking at my values, I could take a look at a lookup list, which I'm happy to say is now available. So now the value field, put your cursor on there, hit F3, you now have a list of valid values. No longer guessing what the value was. If it's in here, it is valid, and we can choose that value and move forward. So we've taken that whole process and making it a lot easier for the end users. Now, that's easy on a single value, but what about that whole, I need something between, or I need something that's in a value. What's the formatting? Is it value? Does the value need to be in quotes? Is it a comma or is it a semicolon? I can't remember the formatting for that. And I do it, I do it a lot, but I always forget what the formatting is, or I do it very infrequently and I don't have to worry about it. Well, the cool thing about that as well is we've made the interfaces basically just ask you the basics. If you're using a between, we're going to ask you for the first value and the second. If you're using in, you can go ahead and use a list of valid values and build your list, or you can even manually enter in your own value into the list. So it's very, very simple. And the nice thing about that is once you click OK, it builds the entry for you. So you as an end user don't need to think about, okay, well, how do I do that again? It does it for you. So now when we run a report, it's going to have the values in it that we expected to have. Now, another common request, and if you're still on SL 2011, probably a request that you get that you're familiar with not being able to have, but what if I have a copy of a report and I say, hey, I'd really like to share this with a colleague of mine. I want to show Debbie this report. I think she might find it interesting. Well, what can you do today? Well, you might be able to print it out and take it down the hallway and give it to them. But what if you want to go ahead and just automatically take a copy of that? Well, we've added back to the SL preview functionality the ability to actually take a copy of that report, add it to an email, and attach it. So we can take a Crystal report. We can also take an SSRS report, and there's now a new icon available on both screens. The little mailing icon will pop up. It'll say, okay, what do you want to do? I want to save it, and generally I would probably suggest saving that report as a PDF unless you want people to be able to edit it. But a PDF locks down the information. Click OK, and it's going to go ahead and pull up our email interface where we can go ahead and automatically attaches the email. We can go ahead and email it to Jeff, and Jeff or Debbie, and send the document off to them, or the report off to them. They can view it, look at it, and move forward from there. Now, some other things that were added as well. We have added unlimited formats. And Jeff, geez, what does that mean? Well, basically in the past you had the ability for each report that you could have 8 different formats, and we've added the ability inside of SL 2015 to have unlimited report formats. That means you can have as many as you need to define in the system, so no longer do you have to go ahead and limit yourself to 8. Now, if you say, Jeff, that's great, but now if I add them to the end, what if the new report format I have at the very end is the one that I want to have as the default? How do I do that today? Well, today you'd have to delete everything out of this table and re-enter it in. Or, luckily, we have a new feature that allows you to define for each company, or all companies, for a report, what is the default report format that should display when I open up the screen. Again, it's a nicety. It's not a have to. If you decide, Jeff, hey, don't need that, whatever it defaults to is fine. We always choose what we want. Fine, leave this field, leave this table blank. But hey, you know what? This is great. I always get people running the run version. It's the posted version they're supposed to run, or the summary version. So if I can save you that time, go ahead and set up the information in here. All it means is that when I open up that report, it's going to go ahead and display the format as posted. Now I'm still able to change it to whatever I want to, but if posted is what we generally want you to use, it's nice to be able to have that from the get-go. Now, what about if you want to run a report and you'd like to run that report for a specific area, and you'd like to take that data and you'd like to put it out into Excel? Now you can do that, and it depends on your report inside of SL. Some of the Crystal reports might work okay with that, but a lot of times you're going to run into some formatting issues or spending some time doing that. So if you want to run a report for a specific area, you want to be able to export that data to Excel because I need it to create a report or a graph that I need to report on. And if I get the data out to Excel, I don't want to have to repeatedly do this over and over and over again. Is there anything that you can use in SL that will help out with that? Well, hopefully you're thinking in your mind, well, that's Quick Query, and that is perfectly correct. The Quick Query feature is an ad hoc query tool that allows you to go ahead and search and find the information in your system. We ship over 100 different quick queries in the core system, and that allows you to basically create your own custom queries on top of that as needed. Now, when you get the data, you can filter the information. You can see this Add Filter button, so we can filter and just choose exactly what we want to view. And once we see the information on the screen, we can then export that data out to Excel. Now, that's a great feature. Now, the way it is, if you're in SL 2011, it just exports the data once, puts it into Excel as just static data, and you're done. Well, what about if I don't want to have to do this over and over again? Is there something that I can do to remove the ability that I have to continually export the data as it gets updated? Well, that's where we come in with SL 2015. Under that, export to Excel feature has been changed slightly. So the copy to table will do exactly what I spoke of. It'll take the data, it will copy the static data into Excel, and you're done. But what about creating a connected Excel document? Well, we have two options for that. You can create a connected Excel document or a query table or a pivot table. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that if I open up the report, it's going to go ahead and create a connection between the Excel document and your SL database. So if I format the data, make it the way I like it, it looks great, love the way it looks, and I export it, it's going to create a connection to the SQL database for me, or my SL database, and once I'm in Excel, all I need to do is refresh that data. So no longer do I have to continually update and so forth. It's going to allow me to refresh it as frequently as I want, so I don't have to worry about that. Now, let's move over to some areas of project enhancements. What are the things that we've added in 2015? So if you're a current project user, what are the features that we're able to do now? Well, one of the common things that you have to do if you are running a project is running the allocation process. Now, if you run allocations a lot, you're familiar with the fact that currently allocations can only be run in one company at a time. Well, what if someone says, hey, don't you run them for all companies? Well, if you have, 5 or 10 companies, well, that means I'm logging into 5 or 10 companies running the allocation process. Well, how about running the approval process? If you have to approve something and you're in the rich client, well, you might have to run it for different companies. Or if I need to run reports, how can I run reports for projects? Well, I have to log into them one at a time to run them. Well, I'm happy to say that those items have been addressed here with 2015. Well, the first thing, and let's just jump right to the screen, processes like the allocator, which used to require that you were in that specific company. Well, here with 2015, you can run the allocations for any company, whether it's for one specific at a time or running it for all. The big benefit here is I don't need to log out of the current company to be able to run the allocation process for other places. So that's a big change that allows you to do it for multiple, or run all of them or different companies at a time without being logged into them. The other area is around reporting. In the past, believe it or not, this whole company selection tab did exist, but it didn't do anything to the reports. So all the reports have been updated to allow the entry and selection of different companies that will actually impact the reports that you are running. So that was a big change that's available to you here in 2015 as well. Now, other areas that have been added to it as well is around security. Now, right now, when people log into the SL product and they're in, let's say, for example, the time and entry, or they're in the project maintenance or invoice areas, and they're going in and they've been assigned to work in a specific company. Well, if they're in that screen right now and they pull up and then they do a lookup list, they are going to see every single project that's been defined inside of that database. Well, in 2015, we've set it up that if Jeff only has access rights to company A, he is only going to see the projects that are available from company A. So he doesn't have to guess, run around and figure out, hey, what's this project? That looks interesting. He's only going to see the ones that are inside his company. So a huge change. So again, The graphic here is just showing you in the past, we would just show you all projects. Now we also pull in the company ID and we look at your security to see exactly whether you should be able to see this project or not. Now, obviously, if I have access to multiple companies, I'll see multiple. But again, this is a great bit of functionality to keep people from seeing things that, well, they shouldn't see, but more than likely it's going to make their life a lot easier without seeing everything that's out there. The other thing is processing, and we talked about allocations having multi-company here to features. We also have the ability here that other screens, like the reviewing, processing screening, inquiry screens, now have a similar look to the allocation screen, where you can do things for a specific company or for all companies, or change different companies when you're still sitting in, for example, CBS. I could look up something for CIA or so forth. So you have great functionality around that as well. Now, the other request we get around the whole idea of project is, hey, I have a project that is in a different currency than my company's base currency. What do I need to do? You know, we've set up the deal with them that we're doing it in Canadian dollars, so we need to record everything in Canadian dollars. I want my base to be base for my project to be Canadian dollars. How am I going to do that? Well, if you're in SL 2011, generally what that would mean today is that you need to go out and you need to create another application database that has a base currency of Canadian, because we simply did not support that. Well, very excited to say that now we do support the idea of having multiple currencies. We have the idea of your base currency, which can still be, in this case, US dollars, but my project-based currency can be completely different. Let's say Canadian dollars in our example. So if you look at the setup screens, you'll see that there's new fields in there. Again, what's your project currency? I can go ahead and set up to be Canadian dollars. And then you can see that that is completely different than my GL setup, which says that I am US dollars. No problem. Now we can actually record things. We can keep track of the projects. We can also obviously convert it back to US dollars to be able to view what that means, whether that's from project maintenance, budgeting, and so forth. So that's a big, big, big plus. And that means that you can, this scenario could be true where your US is your base company, base currency, project base currency is Canadian. You want to invoice this customer in yen, and you want to do your subcontracts in pesos. Believe it or not, I don't know why you would have that, but if you did, you now have that functionality that will support that. Now, some things in the financial area around 1099 vendors, something that I'm sure you guys are getting ready to do here as we get to the end of the year. We have the idea of 1099 vendors, whether they're yes or no, if they're a 1099 vendor, yes or no. But what if you have some that are vendors that are non-compliant? How do I let my end users that are putting data into the system know that that vendor they've just selected is not in compliance? Can we warn them? And also, can we go a step further? If they're not in compliance, can we withhold payment? Because I don't remember. I can't remember whether they're in compliance or not. I'll forget to pull out that money, but can you do something to help me out with that? And luckily, the answer is yes. So what have we done? Well, we've gone ahead and added the ability to calculate backup withholdings. This is a new setting under your 1099 area under AP Setup. So we can go under AP Setup, 1099s, turn on the backup withholdings. Not doing backup withholdings? Don't worry. Go ahead and say no, and that will not come up. You won't need to do that. But if you do turn it on, you're going to tell us how much do you generally want to withhold, which is generally 20%. And then you basically need to tell us, well, where do you want us to store this amount that we're withholding? And you're going to usually generally set up that account that will keep track of it through the year, and then you can pull out of it and pay the government for that as you go forward. Now, where we're going here with this as well is once we enter this information and click on Save, what will happen initially is if I do turn this on, it is going to ask you, would you like me to go through your system and turn on this for everybody and set up all the vendors and turn on that they need a backup withholding for vendors that are not set up correctly? And if you say yes, it will do just that. Now, what is it looking at? And I can't remember. It's going to go in, okay, I don't have my little highlight. If it doesn't find a tax ID number, if it doesn't have a tax ID number, that's going to turn on backup withholding, meaning if the vendor is a 1099 vendor and no tax ID number, there's an issue. Secondly, if it does and you've got the TIN correct notice set to once or twice, that lets us know that, again, there's still an issue. They might have a tax ID number, but something is wrong with it. We're going to turn on backup withholdings for you as well. Now, you are free to go in, obviously, after you run that process, make edits, turn people off, turn people on that you know should be. And basically, what is that end result? Well, that means that when that person goes in to select that vendor, that they will get warned. Now, what you decide to do with that is really internally your purpose, your selection. But what you could do is say, hey, if you ever get this, stop. Do not go. Do not pass go. Stop what you're doing. The other option that you can have is let them continue on, and when you go ahead and generate that check, it will pull out the amount that you've described. Now, all this information post backup withholding can be viewed in here, so you know exactly how much you've been withholding, and you can view it whether you view it in the vendor maintenance or vendor history, and you're going to get warned that same warning in the screens that you see above as well. All right, the next thing is, how about invoicing? If I have an invoice, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to see what it's going to look like before I release the batch, because as we know in SL, as soon as you release that batch, that means that you're going to have to make some adjusting entries. But what if I could see that invoice before I went ahead and released that batch, looked at it, made the adjustments before I released the batch? Well, life is going to be easier for me. So, well, we've added a functionality to do that. So if you're in accounts receivable, you can then come into the invoice and memo screen, and there is a new button called Invoice Preview, and it's going to show you, hey, there's some items out there. Let's take a look at them. If you went ahead and released today, this is what your invoice would look like. Now, out of the box, we give you some generic looks. I would definitely suggest you'd want to edit that to add fields like maybe your account and sub-account or other key fields that you want to make sure are correct before you send it out the door. Now, that's great. That means I can do it one at a time. What I'm really excited about, and this is a screen that I'm going to definitely promote to have more of these in the upcoming 2018 release of SL, is the combination quick query and invoice and preview screen. So it's a report and a quick query together as one. And what this means here in this particular case is I can look at the first entry and look at the invoice preview, click on the second line entry, and it automatically updates the report. Now I'm seeing what it would look like for the second line item. So again, very powerful in my sense, and the nice thing about this is because it is a quick query, it works just like a quick query, and I can actually drill back to the details to see exactly what the line items are, go ahead and make the edits to the actual screen, come back to this report, hit a refresh, and see exactly what my changes have made. Payroll, if you're a payroll employee, I definitely would suggest moving up to 2015 and obviously get the latest hotfix as well, because the real goal of 2015 in payroll was to shorten and make procedures easier. There were some processes that you are doing right now in 2011 that you should not have to do. And I really would ask you that if you're on payroll that you look to upgrading. Some of the items, for example, the recalculate and review edit checks. What this meant is, and I don't have a screenshot, I apologize, but just due to time I cut it out. Basically what it meant here is if you made any edits in the screen to any things in the recalculate screen, in the past, if there were any updates that you made actually changed any of the values below in this review edit screen, it was up to you to manually go through and figure out any adjustments that you need to make to the screen. I'm saying right now, when you make that one adjustment, it updates the rest of them automatically for you. It tells you what it's done, and it lets you go forward. Huge benefit. Next is when you're voiding and reissuing checks because something went wrong, and you're potentially interfacing with the project area. You can actually go ahead and tell it to void a check, but also reopen all those lines that I just used for project. Reopen them so I can go ahead and create the new checks for them. Gross up checks, a process that I don't know how anybody used prior to this release, is much more usable. It allows you to pull in any of your standard deductions and so forth that you're using for your general checks can be used here in your gross up check screen finally, and allowing you to do that. And last but not least, now you have an audit functionality, so it will allow you to audit any changes that you're making in the payroll employee screen as well. And last but not least, let's talk about a couple things that I'm really excited about as well. What about that lovely task or request where people are asking, I want to keep people out of companies that they don't really need to be in. They're looking up, they're seeing every single customer company in our database, and they're choosing them. Now I know I've got them locked out so they can't do anything, but it's still, let's make it easier. Well, happy to say that that has happened. So now when you log in, you don't see every single company, you're just going to see the ones that you have access rights to. So that's a huge change. Again, another reason to go forward with it as well. And that's last but not least, the PV lists have been a long It's a nice idea, and it's been good for the years, but we really need to take PBs to the next level, and that's where we're really excited that we introduced the idea of the quick query interface to the lookup list. So this means that you can now choose what fields you want to select on. It's not just you clicking on a row and typing blindly into the screen to see if you can find something. You can now actually have a field to type in, choose the field, find the information. Very cool. You can even export the information from a PV lookup list right into Excel as well. So better search capabilities, easier way to get to things as well. Now, that kind of continues or finishes up with the rich client area. How about being able to request or get to things remotely in SL? I need to get to SL, I need to enter my time, and so forth. What is the solution for that? Well, what we've done for that is created something called web apps. Now, web apps replace what you've had in the past with a business portal, and it provides you, the real big benefit is it provides you access not just on a Windows type machine like a Surface, but it also provides you access to things like via an iPad or an Android device. So whether that's the tablets or the smartphones, you can get access to SL information, which is a big, big benefit. So that's why we've started to create web apps and been updating and releasing them over the past year, 2 years here. Now, what they are, they're built around something called responsive technology. That means if I'm on a tablet and I've got plenty of space, it will expand and show me everything I can. But if I go ahead and move to a smaller device, it's going to go ahead and pull in the pertinent information, display what it can. And then again, if I spin that on its side, it's going to go ahead and again keep on growing. That's what I say responsive technology. It's going to go ahead and update based on what's available to you. Other areas we've added, it also now comes with the idea of form versus grid view. If you're a rich client user, you totally know the idea behind that. So here I am on my tablet. I'm looking to do my time entry, and then I get onto my phone. I hit this little cog wheel. It goes ahead and changes the look, and now I'm in a form view. So I can see that one particular project and all the time for that particular day. So I can go ahead and start entering my information. Now, what do we have? If you haven't heard, these are all the items that are available out there, plus the ones in yellow are the ones that are getting ready to release this month. But you've got a lot. If you are a project person, obviously lots of areas. I would definitely recommend connecting with your SIS person to understand the benefits and features that are out there. But basically, from a project manager side, you can set up a project, look at the resources, assign resources. We have a whole resource maintenance and resource assignment functionality that's never been available in the Rich Client, now available here on web apps. So I definitely suggest you looking at that. If you're not project, we've done things around payroll, around the item request. We've added the whole quick query feature, that cool thing that I was just talking about. That's available on the web. Your reports that you run, those are available on the web as well. So if you have people that are traveling that need to run those reports or ad hoc queries, they can get access to them remotely as well. Along with these new vendor, customer, and payroll employee maintenance, got someone who's out of the office who needs to make an adjustment or add somebody, well, now you can give them access remotely. So definitely take a look into those areas as well. Now, these are the items that are actually coming out this month. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from our customers that are using the time and expense entry, and we are happy now to be able to start rolling out some of these items into the product. Different areas, unless you've seen it, they won't make a lot of sense, but basically the idea that when I want to add a new project to my time card, instead of having to go to a sub-menu, which it used to be, I can go just click on the projects button, I select a project, boom, I'm able to go forward and start entering my time against it. Or if you're using the assignment feature, you can click on My Projects, which will show you all the assigned projects to you. Even better, I can turn off one of these buttons. So a common thing is some people do not want people to willy-nilly choose any project that's out there. Well, now in this new release, you can turn off this button. Great. Or, hey, we don't use project assignments. We always have to pick our projects one at a time. Well, you can turn off the My Projects button as well. We can also define the number of rows that will display on the screen. Right now, it can go up to 20 lines at one time can be displayed on the screen. Obviously, your device will tell you whether you have to scroll or not. But again, those are the type of feedback that we've been getting through customers. Now, we've added, I would say, close to 50 different changes to the product just in this one release based on customer feedback. The idea going forward, as I said earlier, is we're going to continue to roll these out in a much more frequent base as we get those requests in. So if you are currently using it, please reach out to your SIS partner. If you have great ideas, we're here to open. The idea behind web apps is we want them to be like, the apps that you get. We can update them more frequently. We have a new agile model that we're using to develop them, so we're interested in getting your feedback, edits, reviewing them, make sure they can be used for everyone, and rolling them out sooner rather than later. And then, as we said, these are the maintenance screens that are now available to you, again, allowing you to access these screens remotely, be able to make edits, add people, and be able to move forward. Now, as far as the roadmap goes, what's going on with SL? Well, here we are in the second half of 2016, and what we have is that CU2 release. Again, the main thing of the CU2 release is its rich client hotfixes and that Power BI package that's coming out. At the same time, roughly, we're going to be releasing those new web apps, which will be the hotfixes, the web app enhancements, and the new web apps. So those will be releasing. And the idea is, again, for web apps is to continually to update them basically on a monthly basis. Whether those are hotfixes or new features, we're going to continue to do that. Now, when's the next big major release? Well, if you're sitting right there wondering when I should upgrade, well, I would upgrade sooner rather than later. We're looking at our next release to come in the 2017-2018 timeframe, though, based on the time that it's December and we're just getting our CU2 out the door, I'm looking towards more of the 2018 timeframe, just so they can get enough time to get all the new features that I wanted to 2018. So that's probably the time frame, just to kind of give you a heads up. If you are still in 2011, it's a great time to upgrade. You've got good time. You've got a solid product that's been out there, and it's getting a lot of hot fixes with the CU2 that are really addressing a lot of any questions or issues that might have come up since its initial release. Now, with that, Debbie, I want to open it up to the floor and see if there are any questions on where we are with the current releases, any of the announcements that we made today, or anything else that they might have a question on.
Jeff, this is Max. We've got a question here that I'll let you field, and it's what's easier to learn, Power BI or a product like BI 360?
It's a very, very good question. I would say, as far as for the end user creating, if your job is to create the reports and you're a technical person, I'd say you're probably in the same area. I know I'm not going to say anything bad about BI 360 because it's a very powerful and built to work directly with SL right out of the box. So I think I can't tell you an exact answer on that. I'm probably a little biased on that, so I don't want to say it, but both of them are very powerful solutions. BI 360 is widely used by the SL community, so I would say you've got a great option there. If you haven't tried out either of them and you've got some people that want to try it, I definitely recommend you taking a look at both of them. But that is a good question.
And I would add to that and say BI 360 is a suite of products that includes data warehousing and budgeting and some other things that BI 360 does not include, but BI 360 is a very powerful dashboarding tool, and we use both at SIS and offer both.
So you
have
guys,
another question?
Yeah, and you guys as customers are in a great place, the fact that of what Max just said. They've got both, best of both, they know both, and they can help advise you on what's going to work best for your needs.
So the next question is, when is sales order entry on the web app schedule?
Sure, good question. Sales order entry is still on the schedule. Is it going to happen here in the next year? I would say, to be honest with you, no. I don't see it coming out in the 2018 timeframe. That is probably the most complicated SL screen ever created in the world. So right now, currently, sales order is not on the list. We are getting ready to release some of the more basic financial screens. Is kind of where we're focused right now, to be able to provide more solutions to the existing financial area, since we were really heavily focused on getting project area taken care of. I know that there are a couple project screens that will be released over this next year that we're going to get out the door to kind of finalize our kind of the high level group of screens that people need for the project area, and then it is focusing on those kind of those low-hanging fruit. Again, the maintenance screens for the financial areas, but we're looking to some other areas. Could it happen beyond 2018? That is definitely a possibility, but right now that is not on the schedule for this coming year. And good question.
This is Debbie. I believe this might be a suggestion. It's Thomas has asked on the metadata, ability to add custom tables and views to the possible tables so we can add friendly field descriptions to them.
So this is this is back to one of the examples I had. So you can do that today, and if I'm hearing you incorrectly, please feel free to email me at v-jsuin@microsoft.com. But it does allow you to pull in any custom tables and allows you to add the data, and I'm assuming he's talking about the data that you would display in a report. So you can actually pull in custom tables and add field names that are proper to you, opposed to, user field 1, user field 2, or whatever it happens to be. That does exist today, and if I'm misunderstanding you, please reach out to me and email me and ask me any questions that you might have on that. And if you don't have my email address, it's v-jsuin@microsoft.com, or you can email Debbie, and Debbie knows how to get to me as well.
Okay, we have another one. Is there a way to change the default field selected in the filter field when the user presses F3?
Good question. When you do an F3, most of the time it is going to come up to the key field. I will double check this and get back to Debbie if it's different, but my initial answer would be no. It's going to have to default to the key field that it's being looked up on. So I know you can rearrange the order of the fields, so you could change them around in the PV list, and we do still support that. But if it's a key field, most of the time that key field needs to be that first field. That's a good question.
Okay, and another one. For time card web apps, will SL add the option for alternative work week schedules to the program? Example, Sunday through Saturday or Friday to Friday.
Yes, so when you define that as, that my question to them was, is if you can define that in the week maintenance screen, it will be able to be supported in web apps. If you are finding that is not happening, please let me know and let me know of that example. I'm not aware that it does not work with that, but if it is not working the way that you would expect it to, please definitely, those are the things I want to hear. My understanding, if you can define it in the week maintenance, there's a setting that we allow you to basically define your weeks as you want. If it's not coming the way that you're expecting it, please email me directly and let me know, and I'd be happy to listen to it and understand what's going on and see if we can address that.
Thank you, Jeff. The next one, for the CU release, is the update automatic or does it need to be installed? Well, it would need installation, right, Jeff?
It would. Now, the big benefit of this one is it's not a I need to uninstall SL completely or uninstall it from all my desktops and reinstall it. It literally is an installation that you would run through, but it only has to take place on your SL server, and then run a database update to update all the stored procedures and so forth to get all the fixes and so forth. So that's a big benefit there.
Okay.
Another one, is Dynamics SL 2015 faster than the other versions? That's an interesting one.
Is it faster than the other version? I am not aware that it is a different speed than the other ones. How about that? I'm not aware that it is slower than any of the other versions, but I'm not aware that it is faster than any other version. So I've never officially tested it to see if it was faster or slower. I'm not aware of it being slower, but if there's an area that you are worried about, I would definitely contact your SIS partner to understand. Maybe they've got examples of that, and see if the area that you're interested in are in, just to make sure you could test it out prior to it. And obviously, if you're going before you go live, you're going to want to implement SL 2015 on your test server to make sure everything is working the way that you expect it.
And we can certainly help you with it if it's a performance issue. We have an infrastructure team at SIS as well. Next question. Is there a way to find out when the last time a specific report template was used? Would like to delete some that haven't been used in a while, but don't know what those are.
Good question. I am not aware of a way to look up and see when the last time a template was used. So I'm going to have to go with no. that there is not a way to do that. I'm trying to think in the report. Now let me take a step back. You might be able to view in the report control table that shows all the reports that have been run, whether it's in there. That's a really good question. I love these questions. First of all, I love SIS customers already. They're giving me good questions. So let me look at that up. Maybe Debbie and Max's team know this, but report templates, I'm writing it right down. Can you check when it runs? Now there's the whole RPT runtime. I'm assuming the RPT runtime would have that information, but I'm worried here that the RPT runtime is getting blown away every time you run it, so it's not keeping a history of the reports that you're on. So I will look that up. My initial answer is going to be no, but if I find out something different, or if you want to reach out to your SIS consultant who might have more experience in that area, feel free to reach out to them, but I'm going to look it up as well because I think that's a great question.
Yeah, we'll look that up and make sure Debbie gets you an answer. So is there any other questions that we have? One more. I've been hearing a few things about Dynamics 365 SL, which I interpret that to be a hosted SL solution. Is that coming or supported?
So what was the solution they said they've heard of?
Dynamics 365 SL.
365 SL, okay.
Well, that too, but I'll let you go ahead, Jeff.
Sure. So Microsoft has released a new product called Dynamics 365. That is correct. Dynamics 365 is basically a very, how do I say this? Microsoft has been getting beaten up because there are other products out there that are saying, hey, we're true cloud. We were born in the cloud, and we want to, if you want true cloud, come to us. Well, as we all know, SL and the other Dynamics products can be put up into the cloud. They also have the benefit that they can be both hosted or in the cloud, so we have a lot of benefit. But there are still people that say, I need to have it needs to be a true cloud. It has to be cloud from the beginning to the end. I don't want anything that can be on-premise, nothing like that. So what Microsoft did is they created a really nice basic solution that will be able to go after a very simple horizontal area. It's basic financials that they've come out with. And the goal of that is to provide an opportunity if someone like an SIS or a new customer is coming in saying, hey, I have to have all in the cloud, it has to be born in the cloud, lived in the cloud, well, then that's fine, and they really have basic financial needs, and that gives people another opportunity. It is nothing that if you were an SL customer today that you would probably want to move to. It doesn't have the feature functionality that you have in a mature product like Dynamics SL or the feature functionality that you're used to. So it is a solution that came out. It is brand new to the world, so to speak. And obviously it's something that doesn't probably make a lot of sense for an SL person to move to at this time.
And just to add to that, Jeff is speaking of the mid-market Dynamics 365 solution. There's also a version, an enterprise version based on AX that is also cloud only that Microsoft just released. So if there's anything else we can answer on that for you, please give SIS a call. We have another one. And yes, you will all get the slide deck or a link to it, right, Debbie?
We'll get the deck out to you and also a link to the recording right away. Jeff, I believe that's all the questions today.
Very good. Well, thank you everybody who attended, and thank you for your questions. It makes it much more interactive, and hopefully you guys got the answers. If you're like me, I generally come up with my questions after I'm off the presentation. Definitely contact Debbie. You have her email here, dpv@sisn.com. Email her, give her a call, ask her those questions that you don't have. If she can, a lot of times she's going to be able to get that answer right inside of SIS. If not, she knows me directly and has my direct number, so she can contact me and get an answer in case I can assist.
And on behalf of SIS, we want to thank you for joining us today and wish you a happy holiday season.
Thank you, Jeff.